In 2018, Insomniac Games blessed us with what we know today as Marvel's Spider-Man PS4. When that game was released, it was met with way more than just high praise. Apart from the memes that spawned out of how the game makes you feel like Spider-Man, the general consensus amongst critics and users was way beyond just positive. My opinion on that game is somewhat similar, where it wasn't an earth-shattering experience like God of War that released that same year. It was and still is truly one of the best superhero video games to this day. With satisfying and fluid combat animations, a near flawless swinging system, and a story to rival most big budget productions, Insomniac's Spider-Man did a stellar job at getting this game as close to perfection as they could. While not entirely perfect, the game did its best to set the stage for what was and is yet to come. So allow me to begin this review by drawing a parallel. If New York was the stage for a concert, then playing as Peter Parker in Spider-Man PS4 was like being present for a classical orchestra. Every instrument in unison with the others, every movement well defined and practiced, every note accurately following the next. The game was the interactive equivalent of a well-rehearsed orchestra, a symphony of many highs and very few lows. Where Spider-Man PS4 is a classical concert, Spider-Man Miles Morales is like the more modern genres of music. Think hip-hop or progressive rock, progressive metal, or perhaps freestyle rap.
These my dollars make it hurt.
The stage being New York remains the same, while the artist making the music comes from a different genre, owing to a very unique experience. It is by no means a comparison between the two, but a parallel drawn to show the uniqueness of the different flavors that exist in various genres of music and in these games. Spider-Man Miles Morales does exactly that. No, this isn't a reskin, and no, it's not something to waste your time on until you get Spider-Man 2. It's a game that stands out as its own thing, and a fantastic start to the next generation of consoles. Ladies, gentlemen, and my friends beyond the binary, I present to you my spoiler-free review of Spider-Man Miles Morales. Spider-Man Miles Morales has its own up and downs. Where it's a worthy successor to the first game in terms of its gameplay, side content, world building, and progression system, the same cannot be said about its somewhat predictable and lackluster narrative and also its unimpressive characters, save for a couple. If you were confused by the name of this game, let me clear that up. Miles Morales is our protagonist this time around, and perhaps one of two characters with a pulse. Najee Jeter's performance as Miles is perfect to say the least, and one to be commended, and I'm not surprised. One of his major career credits is his role as Miles in the Spider-Man animated series, so he definitely knows what he's doing. Miles is exactly what you'd expect him to be, a 17-year-old science nerd, except he's also a Marvel character. Above this, his never back down noble spirit and the fact that he made Pete a promise to protect the city is what makes him so valuable and so unique. Having trained with Peter for what is a year after the events of the first game, Miles is now ready to come into his own and take on the mantle of the Spider-Man. After an intense opening sequence with Peter and Miles taking down the Rhino, we're very abruptly introduced to his new bioelectricity-based ability known as Venom Power. We later learn that Peter is leaving for Symkaria and bestows upon Miles the responsibility to protect New York in his absence. You're then tasked with investigating Roxxon Plaza for a break-in. You learn of the Underground, a tech-driven secret organization trying to sabotage Roxxon. You successfully take out the baddies, learn about what they were after, and head home for Christmas Eve. We learn more about the other people in Miles' life. His best friend and tech guy, Ganke Lee, basically Ned Leeds from the movie, Rio Morales, Miles' mother, who's running for office in Harlem, And Finn Mason, an aloof yet friendly individual who's also Miles' closest friend from school. As our four characters spend Christmas Eve together, we end the prologue. Beyond that point, the story is quite predictable. The writing is perhaps the only deciding factor for this game because everything else is nearly excellent. Each event is plagued with too many plot contrivances or predictable narrative beats. Some characters, like the Rhino, are completely and utterly replaceable. It really wouldn't matter if the Rhino was replaced by, say, Scorpion or Vulture. The villains are generic baddies and do bad things, like Simon Krieger, who runs the Roxxon Corporation and is involved in some shady business, or the Tinkerer, whose personal vendetta against Roxxon could have been so much better, but is driven by blind rage. That aside, the rest of the game is a serious step up from its predecessor. The gameplay is exceptional and redefined enough to make Miles' new Venom-powered Spider-Man plays very differently from Peter's classic vanilla Spider-Man. For one thing, the swinging and traversal is way better. Smoother animation transitions and a versatile set of tricks and mannerisms make Miles seem unique enough to differentiate from the other guy in the mask. Where Peter's swinging had professional finesse, Miles' swinging has artful improvisation, reminding us that Miles is a spunky kid who's new to the Spider-Man gig. You can also propel yourself higher and further by using the Venom power, and I absolutely love this! Enemies are abundant this time around and even more aggressive on the two hardest difficulties. While your basic attacks and web shooters largely stay the same, Miles' arsenal of skills and gadgets are amplified by his diverse bioelectricity-based combat and his ability to camouflage. This opens up multiple opportunities to fully stealth through almost every area or encounter and even lets you hop in and out of stealth as you please. But the one change that truly impressed me the most was the removal of the boring Mary Jane stealth sequences. Those infuriatingly slow, easy to fail, handheld stealth sequences are now completely gone. And to make things even better, the redundant, time-wasting science puzzles are gone too. The game is way more consistent with its side content. The spider training sessions are a series of side quests that, if completed, unlock special skills and also give us an insight into how Peter is training Miles to be just as good as him, if not better. Time capsules that seal away memories of Miles and his friend help build on their fractured relationship as they make an attempt to pick up the pieces. Or the sounds of New York that Miles' uncle tasks you to collect to introduce Miles to a piece of his childhood. This kind of world building is excellent. With the introduction of the in-game app called the Friendly Neighborhood app, Miles can get unique requests from New Yorkers to help them with local crimes. Maybe it's a stolen car, or someone just wants a selfie with you. This, in addition to the limited number of side quests that show us the plight of the people of Harlem, makes Miles' attachment to his neighborhood that much deeper. The action set pieces and boss fights, though fewer than last time, are still consistent, exhilarating, and downright fun. I won't spoil any of these, but they're all unique and they're just so fucking fun. The skill tree is redesigned to fit Miles' abilities and stays largely the same in terms of progression, where you earn skill points through various activities and missions and upskill your Spider-Man. Gadgets are limited but work great in tandem to Miles' new powers, and the suit modifications and suit variety does not disappoint this time as well. All in all, I have to say, besides the slight missteps in the narrative, Spider-Man Miles Morales is pretty great. Before I wrap this up, I'll quickly talk performance. I played this on a PS4 Slim 1 TB, and the game runs at a solid 30 FPS for the most part. Some parts of the game can have too many enemies on screen with all the lighting and particle effects going off at once, and that can make the performance drop a bit. Lighting in general is way better, and considering I ran it on a PS4, I was surprised it held up so well. But it's high time we admit that this is a PS5 game and that it's been made to fit the PS4. And in that regard, it delivers quite well. The soundtrack, music, and voice acting are all on point for almost everyone, and Miles' powers have a satisfying buzz to them, making the sound design stand out. I would also like to give a special shout out to the person who designed the photo mode and giving me the ability to manipulate light even on a PS4. The complete experience of this game is very, very different, and I absolutely adore whatever it gets right. So, Here we are at the end. Insomniac Spider-Man Miles Morales isn't perfect. And after about 15 to 16 hours of playtime, that includes the Platinum Trophy and 2 playthroughs on the hardest difficulties, I can say that Miles Morales is more than just a worthy successor to the first game. As for what is yet to happen in the franchise, only time will tell. But I will most certainly be on board with it, considering the post-credits sequence. This game took me a week to review, and barring a few slip-ups, it's a magnificent follow-up to 2018's Spider-Man PS4. Thanks for watching. Hey, once again, thanks for watching my video. If you made it this far, I would appreciate a like only if you liked the video. If you didn't like the video, hit the dislike button. That helps make my content better. Comment, because comments are good for the algorithm. Comments are also good for me. Once again, for the third time, thank you for watching my video. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Stay safe. Stay awesome. This is Kedar, signing off.